So you've got yourself an action cam, but you're kind of stuck on the default shots of the chin view and the selfie. Well, in this video, as part of a mini series on how to get more out of your action cam, we'll give you 10 more creative shots that anybody can do. Now, I'll start with a quick disclaimer that if you do try any of these mounting positions, of course you do so at your own risk, because if you do start to get a bit more creative with some of these locations, then of course the odds of it coming loose might increase. If you are feeling particularly doubtful about the mount that you're using, well, of course double check it, but also maybe fit a tether as a safety net if it does come off. Still, with all that in mind, one of my favourite mounting positions that I use quite a lot for our videos is on the bar end, and it doesn't necessarily work for all bar ends because some of them are tapered and some of them spin. But with these ones on my body, they're nice and robust and they're nice and square, and so you can actually use the handlebar mount to get it attached on here. What I really like about this though with the ball mounts is you can actually move it around a bit, so you could point it backwards and get a view of the tank and the engine and your riding position and shooting back down the road, but then equally spin it round and get more of the front wheel and the brakes and the road ahead. Specifically when I'm shooting with this mounting location, I like to shoot in 4K and also a 4:3 ratio because it means you can crop in on specific details of the bike that help you to illustrate your point. Number 2 though is this fairly horrible sticky stuff, and this is called Blacktack, which basically allows you to mount the camera almost anywhere on the bike's bodywork. It's used, I believe, by film and TV production crews for attaching cameras in, unusual locations, or so it says on the box anyway, and that's exactly how I use it as well. If you wanted to mount this camera, for example, up on the outside of the fly screen, well, it's basically like blue tack on steroids, and so with a bit of a decent press on, and also if you make sure the surface is clean, it actually holds really surprisingly well. I wouldn't recommend using a selfie stick though, because it would give the camera some extra leverage to peel off. And again, this is possibly a situation where you might well want to use a tether, but it does mean, especially on more modern bikes and sports bikes with a lot of fairings and stuff like that, that there are actually quite a lot of different creative possibilities in order to show the details of the bike. Now, number 3 is slow motion, because most action cameras now can shoot in 120 frames per second or 240. And while it isn't something I recommend overusing because it can be a bit of a drag to watch too much of it, it can, for emphasis, sometimes have a place, like if you were doing a brief dramatic montage. Now, another shooting mode that can give you an interesting visual effect is horizon leveling, which you do get on this Action 5 Pro from DJI as part of the stabilisation settings. As you might have gathered from the name, it keeps the horizon level, and so it's perfect for activities like motorcycling where you do get a lot of side-to-side motion. This one I think is best if you mount it on the tank or on your chest or on your chin, and it's a great way to show off the dynamism of the bike or potentially the particular section of road that you're riding. Now, another shooting mode which really does lend itself to that forward-facing view is time-lapse, which again, like slow motion, you might not want to overuse, but it does still have its place for showing like the passing of time or a busy city, or perhaps a particularly long and curvy road that's going left and right again. Now, along with YouTube, I suspect a lot of people have their action cameras for capturing footage to share on other social media platforms like Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok. These platforms though typically favour vertical content, and while you can crop in on your regular horizontal video files, it's probably actually better to capture them in vertical so you get a better resolution and also a better field of view. Thankfully, although the magnetic mount for these Action 5 Pros is on the bottom, well, you do get this cage which also has a magnetic mount on the end. So slip it in the cage and you can use all your regular mounts and shoot it in that vertical format. Again, this looks great for the chin view because you get loads of the bike, you get a sense of movement, you get the road ahead and the sky. But also you could use this with some of the other mounting locations we talked about earlier for something a bit more original. If you're out riding with your mates, then of course that does open up even more creative options, like mounting it here so you can get a rolling shot or tracking shot. This stuff looks absolutely pro, and I've done it here with the handlebar mount on the grab rail of my Bonnie. But it's another time we also often use Blacktack as long as we're not on a super bumpy road or going at crazy speeds. Again, I'd shoot 4K here and 4:3 ratio so you can crop it later because it can be difficult to get this one exactly right. And also you might want to go to like a narrow mode so it's not too zoomed out. You don't want an ultra wide field of view because the bike looks pretty small unless you get ridiculously close. Again, do this at your own risk. Of course, ride safely, keep a decent distance, maybe off to one side. But if you get it right, you know, the results on this one can be really very good. The other option here as well is to just point it sideways. You might want a wider field of view for this one, and you can get that nice side-on shot. You've just got to get really good at riding the same speed next to your mates. But providing it's safe to do so, I really like to get this shot because it does give you a sense of what the bike looks like when someone's actually riding it. Okay, number 9. This one is a little bit of a, not a bodge, let's say it's a hack, but it's a combination of mounts with one gripping onto the grab rail there, then a selfie stick that's ever so slightly extended, and then the bar mount with the ball heads around the end of it. The result is something that's a bit of a follow cam effect, and again, just another nice alternative view to mix up your edits. The only caveats with this one is probably be careful not to go too wide past your handlebars so you don't get hit by oncoming traffic, and also you can't go that far out with the selfie stick anyway because it'll probably flop down, or at very least it'll start to bounce around a lot. And to wrap up, we've got the same mount in a different position for what I would call a super selfie. You can attach it to the bars, rest it on the clocks there, you could even potentially zip tie around it to keep it nice and steady, and this is going to give you an even wider shot than if you just mounted it on the bars. The only thing I will add is extending these ball mounts up a bit so you don't get too much of the stick-in shot. So that rounds off our 10 more shots that you can get with your action camera, and we also recently made 6 mistakes you should avoid, and I'll put that video on the screen now in case you missed it. Do hit subscribe for more of the latest motorcycle tech like this right here on MOTOBOB. A massive thanks for watching today, and we'll see you in the next video.